2026 is not just the next year on the calendar. It is a mirror. It will reflect your decisions, your discipline, and your direction. The question is not what 2026 will bring to you, but what version of you will show up to meet it. Ladies and gentlemen, as we step into 2026, I want to ask you a simple but uncomfortable question. If nothing changes, where will you be this time next year? Not where you hope to be, not where you plan to be, but where your current habits, decisions, and thinking are actually taking you. Because here's the truth. New years don't create new results. New decisions do. 2026 is not calling you to do more. It's calling you to become more. And before you restart your goals, before you rewrite your plans, before you chase another opportunity, it's time to reset who you believe you are. Your identity always determines your behavior, and your behavior always determines your results. If you don't change the internal story, the external outcomes will repeat themselves with a different calendar. Some of you are carrying 2025 into 2026, like excess baggage, mistakes, missed opportunities, regrets, disappointment. But let me remind you of this. The past is not a prison, it's a classroom. You didn't lose, you learned. And if you can extract the lesson without dragging the emotion, you can restart stronger than you ever were before. Failure is only expensive when you refuse to learn from it. Restarting doesn't mean going back to the beginning. It means starting again with wisdom. It means saying, now I know better, so now I can do better. And that decision alone can collapse years of struggle into months of progress. As you refocus in 2026, understand this: busyness is not productivity. Activity is not accomplishment. Most people are exhausted not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing too many low-value things. Success is never about doing everything. It's about doing the right things repeatedly. If you want different results, you must shift your focus from what is urgent to what is important, from what is easy to what is valuable. Your future will not be built by what you touch occasionally, but by what you focus on consistently. Whatever you give your attention to grows, whatever you neglect shrinks. And in 2026, your focus must become more disciplined than your desires. But focus alone isn't enough if the inking stays the same. Your life will never rise above the level of your mindset. Your income, your influence, your impact, they are all reflections of how you think. If you want to earn more, lead more, and become more, you must think differently. New levels are unlocked by new perspectives. And the moment you upgrade your thinking, you automatically upgrade your results. Stop asking, what do I need to do? And start asking, who do I need to become? Because once you become the person who gets the result becomes inevitable. Now let me say something that might challenge you. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes with emotions. Consistency, on the other hand, is a decision. Winners don't wait until they feel like it. They move because they decided once and built systems that support that decision. In 2026, stop relying on how you feel and start relying on what you've committed to. Consistency beats intensity every time. Small actions done daily will outperform big actions done occasionally. Success is boring. It's repetitive. It's disciplined. And that's why so few people achieve it, because they're looking for excitement instead of execution. Finally, let me leave you with this. Clarity eliminates distraction. When you decide once at the identity level, distractions lose their power. When you know who you are and where you're going, you stop negotiating with opportunities that don't align. Focus becomes effortless when the decision is final. So as you move into 2026, reset your identity, restart with wisdom, refocus on what truly matters, decide who you are becoming, and let everything else fall away. Because the year doesn't change your life, you do. And the time to reset, restart, and refocus is now. Before you reset your goals, before you rewrite your plans, before you chase another target in 2026, you must reset your identity, because goals don't control behavior, identity does. You will never consistently act in a way that contradicts who you believe you are. If you see yourself as inconsistent, discipline will always feel forced. If you see yourself as average, excellence will feel exhausting. If you see yourself as someone who starts but doesn't finish, quitting will always feel familiar. That is why so many people set powerful goals and still get weak results. They tried to change outcomes without changing self-image. Your identity is the silent script running your life. It determines what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you walk away from. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. That's why resetting your identity is not motivational, it's foundational. When your identity shifts, your habits follow automatically. When your habits change, your results have no choice. Be you. T to change. Most people try to negotiate with behavior. They say, I'll wake up earlier, I'll be more focused, I'll work harder. But behavior without identity is temporary. The real transformation happens when you say, I am the kind of person who does this. Identity-based decisions remove friction. When you decide who you are, you stop debating what to do. A disciplined person doesn't argue with the alarm clock. A focused person doesn't wrestle with distractions. A committed person doesn't flirt with quitting. They don't rely on willpower. They rely on alignment. Resetting your identity in 2026 means letting go of labels that no longer serve you. It means releasing the version of you that survived but never expanded, that stayed comfortable but never courageous, that stayed busy, never intentional. Growth always requires a funeral. You cannot become someone new while holding tightly to who you used to be. That includes old narratives, old excuses, and old definitions of what you think is possible for you. Your past does not get to vote in your future unless you keep giving it a microphone. You are not who you were last year. You are not your worst decision. You are not your slow season. Identity reset begins when you decide that your future will not be held hostage by outdated evidence. You don't need permission to evolve. You need conviction. When identity is clear, goals become inevitable. You stop chasing outcomes and start embodying standards. Instead of saying, my goal is success, you say, I am someone who operates at a high standard. Instead of saying, I want to be consistent, you say, I am consistent. Language matters because language shapes belief, and belief shapes behavior. Speak from identity, not from desire. In 2026, the most powerful reset you can make is internal. Not a new planner, not a new strategy, not a new opportunity, a new self-concept. Decide who you are before the world tries to decide for you. Because once you're identity, why is anchored. Your goals stop feeling heavy. They stop feeling forced. They start feeling natural. And when who you are finally matches what you want, progress accelerates. Not because life gets easier, but because alignment makes effort sustainable. Reset the identity first, and the goals will take care of themselves. Restarting is not about pretending the past didn't happen. It's about refusing to let the past control what happens next. Too many people enter a new season dragging old regret like it's proof of responsibility, when in reality it's proof of attachment. Regret keeps you emotionally tied to moments you can't change, while lessons release you with clarity and direction. If you want a true restart, you must learn how to separate the experience from the emotion and carry forward. Only what makes you wiser. Every setback you experienced was not random, it was instructional. Life doesn't just test you, it trains you. But training only works if you review the lesson. Pain without reflection turns into bitterness. Pain with reflection turns into wisdom. The difference between people who repeat cycles and people who break them is not intelligence or opportunity, it's interpretat. One group asks, why did this happen to me? The other asks, what is this here to teach me? Regret keeps you stuck in replay mode. You relive conversations, miss chances, wrong decisions, and you punish yourself for not knowing what you know now. But here's the truth. Hindsight is not wisdom, it's clarity. You couldn't act with today's understanding back then because you didn't have it. Self-forgiveness is not weakness. It's the doorway to forward movement. You don't honor your growth by shaming your past self. You honor it by applying what you learned. Restarting with lessons means owning your part without wearing it as a life sentence. Accountability is powerful, but self-condemnation is paralyzing. There is a difference between responsibility and self-sabotage. Responsible. Itty says, I see what I did. I understand why it didn't work, and I'll move differently now. Self-sabotage says, I failed before, so failure is who I am. One creates momentum, the other destroys confidence. In 2026, your restart must be intelligent, not emotional. Emotion makes you either rush or freeze. Wisdom allows you to move with precision. Take inventory of what worked, what didn't, and most importantly, why. Patterns don't lie. If something keeps repeating, it's because the lesson hasn't been fully learned. Once the lesson is learned, the cycle loses its power. Regret looks backward. Lessons look forward. Regret asks you to relive pain. Lessons ask you to redesign behavior. When you extract the lesson, the experience has completed its assignment. There is no need to carry it any. You don't need closure from people or situations when you've gained clarity within yourself. A restart fueled by regret is fragile. It's driven by fear of repeating mistakes. A restart fueled by lessons is powerful. It's driven by understanding. Fear-based restarts are cautious and hesitant. Lesson-based restarts are confident and intentional. You move forward not hoping it works this time, but knowing why it will. The moment you shift from regret to learning, your confidence returns. Confidence is not pretending you'll never fail again. Confidence is knowing that even if you do, you have the capacity to learn and adjust. That awareness alone makes you unstoppable. You stop fearing mistakes because you understand their role. They are not verdicts, they are data. As you restart, relay. Ease the emotional weight, but keep the intellectual gain. Let go of shame, disappointment, and self-blame. Keep the insight, the awareness, and the upgraded judgment. That is how you move forward lighter, sharper, and stronger. A true restart doesn't erase the past, it redeems it. When you restart with lessons instead of regrets, nothing is wasted. Everything becomes leverage. And that is how you step into 2026. Not as someone trying again, but as someone starting again. Wiser, clearer, and more prepared than ever before. Refocusing on high-value activities is one of the most important decisions you can make in 2026 because your results are not determined by how hard you work, but by what you choose to work on. Most people are tired not because they lack discipline, but because they are spending their energy on tasks that do not move their life forward in any meaningful way. Effort without strategy leads to exhaustion, not excellence. If you want a different outcome, you must become ruthless about where your time, attention, and energy go. High-value activities are the actions that create disproportionate results. They are the few things that, when done consistently, make many other things easier or unnecessary. Low-value activities keep you busy, but high-value activities make you effective. The challenge is that low-value work feels productive because it gives immediate feedback, while high-value work often feels uncomfortable because it requires focus, patience, and delayed gratification. That discomfort is why most people avoid it. And that avoidance is why most people stay. Why stuck? In 2026, being busy will no longer be a badge of honor. Clarity will be you must stop measuring your days by how full they are and start measuring them by how valuable they are. Ask yourself regularly, does this activity compound or does it merely consume? Does it build leverage or does it demand constant effort just to maintain the same position? High-value activities compound over time. They create momentum even when you're not actively working. Low-value activities require you to keep pushing just to stay in place. Refocusing requires elimination before addition. You cannot layer high-value actions on top of a cluttered schedule and expect excellence. Something has to go. Every yes to something unimportant is a no to something essential. Discipline is not about doing more. It's about doing less better. The most successful people are not more capable than others, they are more selective. They guard their focus because they understand its worth. High-value activities usually live at the intersection of skill, leverage, and impact. They improve your ability, expand your reach, or increase your long-term results. They are often uncomfortable at first because they Demand growth. That discomfort is a signal, not a warning. It means you are working on something that matters. Comfort is rarely a sign of progress. It's often a sign of stagnation. Distraction is the silent enemy of value. It fragments your attention and steals depth from your work. You don't need more time, you need more focus. When you refocus on what truly matters, your schedule may look lighter, but your results will grow heavier. Depth always outperforms breadth. 1 hour of fully focused, high-value work can outperform an entire day of scattered effort. Refocusing also means aligning your actions with outcomes, not with habits. Many people are loyal to routines that no longer serve their future. Just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's valuable. Growth requires constant assessment. What worked in the past may now be a distraction in disguise. Maturity is knowing when to let go of methods that no longer produce meaningful returns. In 2026, success will belong to those who master leverage. Leverage of time, leverage of skills, leverage of systems, and leverage of thinking. High-value activities create leverage. They allow one action to produce multiple results. When you operate from leverage, you stop trading hours for outcomes and start building structures that work for you. Refocusing is ultimately an act of self-respect. It's a declaration that your future matters too much to be built on trivial pursuits. When you choose high-value activities, you are choosing progress over comfort, impact over appearance, and long-term success over short-term satisfa. If you refocus correctly, you will find that life becomes simpler, not more complicated. Fewer tasks, clearer priorities, stronger results. And when your energy is invested in what truly matters, momentum becomes natural. That is the power of refocusing on high-value activities. And that is how 2026 becomes a year of measurable, undeniable progress. Upgrading your thinking is the most way to upgrade your results, because everything you experience on the outside is first created on the inside. Your circumstances are not random. They are a reflection of how you think, how you decide, and how you interpret the world. If you want a different level of success in 2026, you cannot rely on the same mental frameworks that produce your current outcomes. New results require new ways of seeing, processing, and responding. Most people try to change their results by changing their effort, but effort without a shift in thinking only leads to frustration. You can work harder with the same mindset and still hit the same ceiling. That ceiling is not external, it's internal. It's built from beliefs you've accepted, assumptions you've never questioned, and limits you've mistaken for reality. The moment you challenge those limits, possibilities expand. Your thinking determines what you notice, what you pursue, and what you ignore. If your thinking is small, your opportunities will look small. If your thinking is reactive, your life will feel chaotic. If your thinking is strategic, your actions will become intentional. Upgrading your thinking means moving from reaction to refill, from emotion to evaluation, from impulse to insight. It means slowing down long enough to ask better questions, because better questions produce better answers. One of the most powerful upgrades you can make is shifting from problem-focused thinking to solution-oriented thinking. Problems are unavoidable, but how you interpret them determines their impact. A problem can either become a roe, D-block, or a breakthrough, depending on the lens you use. When you train your mind to ask, how can this work? Instead of, why is this happening to me? You reclaim control over your direction. Upgraded thinking also requires long-term perspective. Short-term thinking trades tomorrow for today. Long-term thinking builds today in a way that benefits tomorrow. Many people sabotage their future because they overvalue immediate comfort and undervalue delayed reward. When your thinking matures, your patience increases. You become willing to invest time, energy, and discipline now for outcomes that compound later. That patience is not passive, it's strategic. Your results will also upgrade when your thinking shifts from scarcity to value. Scarcity thinking focuses on what's missing, what's limited, and what might be lost. Value-based thinking focuses on creation, contribution, and growth. When you think in terms of value, you stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I build? That shift alone changes how people respond to you, how opportunities find you, and how influence grows around you. Upgrading your thinking means becoming aware of your internal dialogue. The conversations you have with yourself shape your confidence, your resilience, and your decisions. If your inner voice is constantly critical, doubtful, or fearful, it will quietly sabotage your progress. Thou. Awareness is not self-judgment. It's self-leadership. When you correct your thinking, you correct your trajectory. You must also upgrade the inputs that feed your mind. Your thinking cannot outgrow the information it consumes. What you listen to, what you read, who you learn from, and who you surround yourself with all influence your mental framework. Growth is intentional exposure to higher L. Evil ideas. If you want higher level results, you must normalize higher level thinking. In 2026, your greatest competitive advantage will not be effort. It will be clarity. Clear thinking leads to decisive action. Decisive action leads to momentum. Momentum leads to results. When your thinking evolves, confusion fades, focus sharpens, and progress accelerates. Upgrading your thinking does not mean becoming perfect. It means becoming more aware, more intentional, and more strategic. And when your thinking rises, your results will follow, because life always moves in the direction of the strongest, clearest mind leading it. Committing to consistency over motivation is one of the most important mindset shifts you can make if you want lasting results in 2026. Motivation is emotional, unpredictable, and temporary. It rises when conditions are favorable and disappears when discomfort shows up. Consistency, on the other hand, is intentional. It is not dependent on mood, energy, or excitement. It is built on decision. And decisions, when honored repeatedly, create outcomes that motivation alone never can. Most people wait to feel ready before they act. They wait for confidence, inspiration, or the perfect moment. But progress does not respond to feelings, it responds to follow-through. When you rely on motivation, you give your emotions control over your future. When you commit to consistency, you take that control back. You act because you decided to, not because you feel like it. That shift alone separates those who make progress from those who make excuses. Consistency is powerful because it removes negotiation. When something is non-negotiable, it gets done without internal debate. Debate is where momentum dies. Every time you argue with yourself, you drain energy that could have been used to move forward. Consistency eliminates that drain by turning actions into standards rather than choices. You don't wake up and decide whether or not to show up. You simply do. The greatest results in life are rarely the product of extreme effort. They are the product of small, repeated actions compounded over time. Consistency allows ordinary actions to produce extraordinary outcomes. What feels insignificant today becomes unstoppable over time. The problem is that most people quit before the compound effect becomes visible. They stop because the results are delayed, not because the process isn't working. Motivation focuses on intensity. Consistency focuses on sustainability. Intensity burns hot but short. Sustainability builds steadily and lasts. In 2026, the goal is not to start strong and fade. It's to build a pace you can maintain. Consistency does not require perfection. It requires persistence. Missing once is an event. Missing repeatedly is a pattern. Consistency is not about never failing. It's about never quitting. When you commit to consistency, discipline becomes easier. Discipline is not about forcing yourself. It's about alignment. When your actions align with your identity and priorities, effort feels lighter. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows. That self-trust becomes fuel when motivation fades. Consistency also creates clarity. When you show up repeatedly, patterns emerge. You learn what works, what doesn't, and what needs adjustment. Sporadic effort creates confusion because there is no data to evaluate. Consistent effort creates insight because repetition reveals truth. That insight allows you to refine your approach without abandoning the mission. In 2026, consistency will outperform talent, intelligence, and enthusiasm. Many people have potential, but few have persistence. Potential is what you could do. Persistence is what you actually do. The gap between the two is filled by consistency. Those who win are not the most gifted. They're the most committed. Choosing consist. NC is choosing progress, even when it's boring, uncomfortable, or slow. It's choosing to trust the process before the results are visible. It's choosing long-term impact over short-term emotion. And when consistency becomes your standard, motivation becomes a bonus, not a requirement. If you commit to consistency, your future will not be built on how you felt in the moment, but on what you repeat. Ed Lee did over time. And that is how real lasting success is created, quietly, steadily, and inevitably. Deciding once and eliminating distractions is one of the most powerful ways to reclaim your focus, your energy, and your progress in 2026. Most people are not held back by a lack of opportunity, they are held back by a lack of decisiveness. Every unresolved decision becomes a mental leak. It draws attention, creates hesitation, and opens the door for distraction to take control. When decisions are unclear, distractions feel attractive. When decisions are final, distractions lose their influence. Indecision keeps you in a constant state of negotiation. You go back and forth, weighing options, second-guessing yourself, and revisiting choices that should already be settled. That mental no ice steals clarity and slows momentum. Deciding once means making choices at the identity and values level, not at the emotional level. When a decision is tied to who you are and what you stand for, it no longer requires daily reconsideration. It becomes automatic. Distractions thrive where clarity is missing. When you don't know exactly what you are building, everything looks like an opportunity. When you are clear on your direction, most things reveal themselves as distractions. Focus is not about saying yes to the right things as much as it is about saying no to the wrong ones. Every unnecessary commitment competes with your priorities and fragments your attention. Deciding once also means accepting trade-offs. Every meaningful decision closes certain doors, and that can feel uncomfortable. But growth requires sacrifice. You cannot have deep focus and endless options at the same time. Freedom does not come from unlimited choice. It comes from alignment. When your decisions align with your long-term vision, peace replaces confusion. Distractions are not always obvious. Many of them come disguised as productivity, connection, or opportunity. They feel useful but produce little V. When you decide once, you create a filter that evaluates everything. If it doesn't align with your mission, it doesn't deserve your time. That filter simplifies your life. Simplicity is not lack, it's clarity. Eliminating distractions is not about removing everything enjoyable from your life. It's about removing what consistently pulls you away from what matters most. Distraction is anything that diverts your attention without advancing your purpose. The cost of distraction is not just time, it's diluted progress. When your focus is split, your results are too. Deciding once also builds confidence. When you trust your decisions, you stop looking for external validation. You stop reacting to every opinion, trend, or comparison. Confidence grows when you stand by your choices and move forward without constantly checking behind you. That confidence creates momentum, and momentum makes focus easier. In 2026, the ability to concentrate deeply will be a rare and valuable skill. The world is designed to pull your attention in every direction. Notifications, noise, and endless information compete for your focus. Without firm decisions, you will drift. With firm decisions, you will lead yourself. Deciding once does not mean you never adjust. It means you don't constantly doubt. Adjustments come from insight, not insecurity. When you decide once, you move forward with commitment, review with honesty, and refine with intention. That process keeps you grounded without being rigid. When distractions are eliminated, energy returns. Time stretches. Progress accelerates. You stop feeling busy and start feeling effective. Focus becomes natural because there is no internal conflict pulling you in different directions. The moment you decide once, fully, clearly, and intentionally, distractions lose their power. You no longer need extraordinary discipline because clarity does the heavy lifting. And when your focus is protected, your potential finally has the space to turn into results. As we close, remember this, 2026 does not demand a new version of your schedule. It demands a new level of in. You don't need more chances, more time, or more motivation. You need clarity, commitment, and courage. Reset who you believe you are. Restart with the wisdom you've earned. Refocus on what truly creates value. Upgrade the way you think. Choose consistency over emotion. Decide once and protect your focus. When these principles come together, progress stops being accidental and becomes inevitable. You stop drifting and start directing. You stop reacting and start leading. The year ahead will not be shaped by what happens to you, but by what you decide to do with what happens. So step into 2026 with resolve, not hoping things change, but determined to change how you show up. Because when your identity is clear, your focus is protected, and your actions are consistent, the results will follow. The reset is yours, the restart is now, and the future responds to focus.